Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let Loose with Moose. So today I have Giga with me where we'll be doing our first ever TA episode. Hello Giga, how are you doing?
Hey Moose, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
And I'm happy to have you on as well. So maybe we could start off a little bit with an introduction of yourself and of course your crypto origin story as well.
Yeah, sure. I've been in crypto now since 2017. How I got into crypto, I guess everyone has a different version. I had originally started. First of all, I played on the pro tennis circuit, so I was on the pro tennis circuit for 5 to 6 years, and retired relatively early through injury, and that's how I ended up in Mexico, and really been here ever since. How I fell into crypto was, uh, I guess everyone kind of gets bored of their day job, and they look for more, right? So, I it still exists now. Even on, you see guys on Instagram, and you see those guys like, oh yeah, the penny stock traders and things like that. And I was like, oh, I think I could do that. And that's really how I kind of got started. I started studying and then started trading penny stocks in 2017. And this is when Bitcoin was about, I'm going to say, it was around $1,000. And everyone I was trading with at the time kind of said, no, you don't trade, we don't touch Bitcoin. It's a scam, it's this, it's that. And instead, we were trading these penny stocks. And about mid 2017, when Bitcoin really started to ramp up, it went from like 1 to 3,000, then 6,000, then back to 3,000. And then anything kind of related to blockchain and crypto was just going stupid. It was just doing stupid numbers, 400% in a day. And that's really when I kind of started to scratch my head a little bit and say, okay, what's this Bitcoin thing? And I traded this little company at the time called Riot, which is obviously no longer a little company. They had changed their
Mm-hmm.
name to Riot Blockchain, and this thing went from like $2 to $40 in a couple of months. And that was really my introduction to Bitcoin. And then, like everyone here, we fall down the rabbit hole, and you start to you start to trade these things. And towards the end of that, so I kind of came in towards the end of that bull cycle, and you don't know what you're doing at that point. I was trading Verge. If any, it's not around anymore. No one's going to know what Verge was unless you were here in 2017. Verge, Tron is the only thing really that's still around, and I can still remember Tron going from like under a cent to 30 cents in like 3 days. Like, it was just craziness. And as we kind of all do, if you made money the first cycle, you kind of got a bit lucky. I threw money in, didn't know what I was doing, didn't really make anything either. I was up huge, didn't sell because I thought it was going much higher. And you just kind of learn from your mistakes. And obviously, you kind of hang around long enough in crypto, you're almost always successful. The worst thing you can do in crypto is actually leave. You're rewarded in crypto for staying around, and that's essentially what I did. I kept my day job at the time and just kept investing through the bear market through 2019, and then 2020, and then we had DeFi summer, and that kind of opened my eyes again. It was like, if no one was around then, DeFi summer was essentially, I'm going to say, 2 to 3 months of like complete pandemonium. Anything on chain was just doing like 100x's. Anything DeFi related was just going crazy. Uh, and that's, I guess, once you've been around in crypto long enough, you kind of go through these niche cycles. You know, we had, I don't know if you know what a master node is. We had that niche, you had master nodes, and then obviously even now you've got these TG bot niche, and there's always a narrative. So, as a trader, if you're able to catch those narratives early and kind of ride the wave, you're always going to kind of make money in this space. So yeah, that's kind of really that's my story, and I'm coming into my third cycle now. So normally the normally the saying is first cycle you lose it all, second
Mm-hmm.
cycle you set yourself up, third cycle you retire. So Moose, I'm going for retirement.
Awesome, man. We're happy for you. Well, but
I've
it's
been around long enough. There's enough stress in this space.
yeah, but I
So
really like
it's
your story,
it's
man.
thanks.
I didn't know you were like such an OG back in 2017, in fact. And actually, when you mentioned Riot, right, like they are the Bitcoin mining company. So I'm quite curious,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts, like, or how has the historical price action been for companies like Riot and Mara before the Bitcoin halving, right? Since we have that coming up in a few months' time.
Well, I mean, they're so correlated. I can even probably even bring it up here. Like they're so correlated here that look at Riot on the day now. Like Riot's going absolutely nuts. Um, and I mean, like especially when you can see where it's come from. It's come from pretty much down where I bought it years ago, like $3.30, and it's sitting at $9 now. It's already had a massive run the last couple of months. So I think Coinbase, right? If you're not in Bitcoin, and you want to diversify, or you are in Bitcoin and you want to diversify, looking at things like Riot, Mana, Coinbase, I think are some of the other things that you can get involved with in the normal legacy markets, and it's going to be reciprocal. So if Bitcoin pushes up, you're normally going to get some good pumps on those too. And I mean, when we're talking about the stock market, like Riot's up right now, what, nearly 7%. 7% on stocks is pretty good. You're going to take that. Like I know that's a pretty crappy average day in crypto, but in legacy markets, if you can take a 7% move, that's bank.
Awesome, nice, man. And let's move on now, right? Since you kind of introduced yourself, like how you got started in trading and in crypto, right? Then could you maybe explain a little bit about what is TA, and in your opinion, why does TA work?
TA is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you, I mean, essentially that's what it is. TA, there's nothing special about TA. The reason why TA works is everyone has the same rules. They're looking at the same patterns. Everyone uses the same Fibonacci's. If you're a Fibonacci trader, if you're an Elliott wave trader, if you use exo charts like me, um, it's TA works because everyone has the same tools at their disposal to to get that upper hand, right? Now, because you've got thousands of traders using the same techniques, often the price is going to move in that direction because that's what the TA tells you that it should do. Now, obviously, there's a winner and a loser on every trade. So, not everyone's always winning. So, I mean, as of right now, we're looking at BTC right now. I use Fibonacci. I use Fibs for just about everything, and we're rejecting at the 618, the local 618. So that for some people can be a short, and price is rejecting from it now. Now, I mean, people could be waiting for higher. If that's the case, they're going to stay in their longs. So that's the reason why TA, in my opinion, works. Like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because everyone has the same tools at their disposal. It just comes down to the decision on whether am I buying or am I selling here.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, nice. So everyone just draws the same lines and buy and sell on the exact same line, so it works.
Well, because I mean, a good trader comes down to psychology. It's completely psychological. You can be a great analyst, and you may not be the best trader because, I mean, you could trade with emotion, for example. So, I mean, whether you're trading with money that you can't afford to lose, that's going to affect the way you trade, whether you like it or not. So, the difference between good traders and bad traders is the best traders don't trade on emotion, they trade what the chart tells them. And, you know, in saying what I've said previous, that TA works because everyone's using the same things, that's really the definition or the difference between a good trader and a bad trader is the better traders are trading on what the chart tells them, and then the not so great traders are trading on emotion. And that's really the difference. Being able to recognize when to pull the triggers on a short or a long, depending on what the chart is telling you. And that's not, it sounds so easy in theory, but I can promise you it's not. It takes years of practice. And, you know, to become a good trader, I can assure you any good trader, they've made some shocking trades and they've learnt their lessons the hard way. Unfortunately in this game, you learn your lessons through losing money.
Right, absolutely. Golden advice, where the good traders trade what the chart tells you, and bad traders trade on emotions. Love that, man.
Yeah.
And I know you kind of mentioned to me before we got on the call that you trade a little bit differently from the other people. But before we jump into that, right, just a curious question. What kind of trader are you? Like, do you do quick scalps, or like are you intraday, or going for a swing trade? What kind of trader are you?
I'm more of a swing trader. Honestly, I'm more of a swing trader. I also, well, no longer, but I've been trading for a private fund, and for me, it's just when I've got other things to do during the day, when I'm still got a day job and things like that. That's as of now changed. I'm now full time in crypto. So
Nice.
now I'm a lot more kind of intraday scalps and things like that. I'm happy to take, but my bread and butter is 4 hour, uh, just 4 hour trades that I'm willing to hold for a couple of days to a week.
Awesome. Right, and then could you share a little bit about some of the indicators that you use, and like what makes you mention that you're different from how the other traders trade?
Yeah, sure. So as I've already mentioned, I'm a fib trader at heart. I use Fibonacci for just about everything, but I think what a lot of people don't use, I mean, you can see it on my timeline. I use this platform called ExoCharts. So essentially what ExoCharts does is it's taking the volume from any range that you give it. So whether that's on the 5 minute to the daily to the weekly to the monthly, and it's telling you I have a range of different templates, and it's telling you I use naked point of controls. So a point of control is essentially where volume has traded for a period of time, or maybe the price has not traded there long enough and you might get a gap, for example. So I know some traders use fair value gaps. So a naked point of control or a point of control is where volume has range in a certain level, and it's an important, it could be support, resistance, or it's essentially a liquidity pocket. So as you can see on my screen now, these white lines here, we're currently at a resistance. So this is today's session POC. So if you're bullish on Bitcoin right now, you want to see the price range above this and start to push higher. Now, as you can see, we've got some of these white lines below us, and that's on these current sessions. So the day is split up into 4 sessions, and we're coming into the third session, which is New York Open, which we've just had. And it's showing here that if we don't have any support here and we start to lose these supports, we're probably going to, probability states we're going to come lower back down these previous day value area lows, and obviously we've got some POCs down here. Now this means, any trader is going to tell you right now that we're looking for a sweep here, and this is something that I can use to kind of block out the noise and say, okay, we have a level down here that needs to be swept, and liquidity needs to be taken down there before we can push higher. So, there's a range of different templates that I can use that's essentially showing me where the liquidity is, and you need to think like a market maker. So when you think like a market maker, it's how can I hurt retail the most? How can I hurt the everyday trader? Where can I push price? Or where can I push price where the majority of stop losses are going to sit, where people are protecting their losses. Where can I take price that's going to hurt the most amount of people? And as of right now, and we've seen it really the last 2 weeks. People were incredibly bearish, um, and I was expecting. I wasn't necessarily bearish, but I was definitely expecting a sweep of 26.4, 26.2. I was pretty vocal about that, and we actually front run it, and we still haven't swept those levels. So what I will do is I'll bring this up here. So I'm kind of coming into Monday now. I'm sure everyone's kind of aware of what's going on around the world. We're in a little bit of a sketchy situation now with war in Israel, and the stock market is struggling right now. And I've been quite surprised that there's this one level here that I'm kind of waiting on Bitcoin to tag, which is 31,200. So my bullish thesis here was, if we were not to come down and swing 26,200, we're probably going to come up and tag 31,200 first before we see lower. Now, that's kind of going against what everyone else is saying right now, which is, okay, it's impossible for us to be bearish here because Bitcoin is showing so much strength. And for me right now, it's you need to be very, very cautious about entering longs. I mean, longs on Bitcoin, yes, you need to be cautious. But for the rest of the market, some of these altcoins look incredible, and they're starting to finally kind of break daily resistances. So I'm sure there's going to be a little pop here soon. The real question is, how long does it last? Because from an economical standpoint right now, the rest of the markets are literally falling apart. So you can look at the S&P today. Wow, it's actually flipped green. Well, there you go. So we're looking at the S&P right now, and so through pre-market we actually had a dump, and the S&P's regained. So for right now, we're kind of we need to hold this level, by the way. So the S&P really needs to hold this level here for us to continue kind of any bullish momentum through the rest of the market in crypto. So we're in a tricky spot, really. BTC's shown so much strength of late that it wouldn't surprise me that we swing the highs here and get everyone bullish again. You have to think like a market maker. So, everyone is bullish, really bullish here. Yet S&P and the rest of the stock market is kind of signaling to you that there's a little bit of trouble here. And yet Bitcoin is just continuing to push higher. So, and I'm sure this is the big meme right now, is the head and shoulders that we're kind of putting in potentially here. You've got shoulder, head, and then potentially we could form another shoulder. Now, the measured move down from here is back down to like 22.20. So, I'm not sure if anyone's really prepared for that. So I know all I've seen pretty much all weekend is calling for 36, 37, 40, which normally for me kind of screams get out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that we can't go there, but I think for us to get to those levels of 36, 37, we need liquidity. And as of right now, we don't have it. So if there is a market list like an ETF decision, then I'm happy to go and flip Giga Bull and go, okay, now let's really start looking at 36, 37, 40. There's clearly money sitting on the sidelines waiting for this decision. And we saw that at the start of last week when we had that fake news. So you see a massive 5K candle out of nowhere, and it's been good to see that we've filled the candle. So there's definitely interest there still in the market, which was starting to look pretty dark, to be honest. We were just having outflows after outflows after outflows, and we have done for the last really 6 months. So it's kind of good to see some inflows again back into the market. But yeah, if you definitely don't want to be screaming bull here and long and everything, it's definitely a time to be a little cautious after a move like this. But yeah, as you can see, kind of on my charts, I'd definitely be looking at a sweep now, higher potentially to kind of suck in some longs before we get a flush. And when I say flush, I'm also obviously not calling for new lows, but I think we're probably due for a little push or flush lower to kind of wipe out these late longs. And that's what Bitcoin does. Trading Bitcoin is much harder than trading stocks because Bitcoin loves to fake traders out. There's always a fake move. It's very difficult, especially in the last 2 years. If you're a breakout trader, I feel sorry for you. This is not the market for you. Breakout traders kind of are only successful in bull markets in crypto. You can kind of get away with it trading a little bit more on stocks. There's a lot less fake outs, but in crypto in general, and especially BTC. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, Moose. How many times do you see the price push up and it looks like a breakout, and then 15 minutes later, it's a red candle and it's gone the other way?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many Darth Maul candles have we lived through in the last 7 years? Countless. And I mean, essentially, we had one last week. That fake news. The market's still so new and so easily. I don't want to use the word manipulated. I think liquidity is so low still, or the books are so thin that price is still so easy to move with a couple of billion here and there, or a couple of 100 million on the books. It's very easy to move price the way that people want it to move. So us being the little guys here, you've always got to be kind of defensive in the way that you play the market until it becomes easy mode. And I do think eventually we're going to get there. Eventually we're going to get to easy mode again, and everyone can claim that they're a genius. But yeah, the last 2 years it's been difficult. I think this bear market has definitely been a lot harder than the rest that I've had to sit through, just with the capitulation that's taken place kind of last year with FTX, Three Arrows. It's just been, this has been so Celsius, Luna. I mean, you name it. Like it's just been negative catalyst after negative catalyst. So this year to kind of make some of those losses back, and even if we were just to kind of trade sideways, it's almost a benefit to try and at least bring some credibility and positivity back to the market. Because I mean, even though I know on the VC side, I'm talking with VCs all the time, and there's just so many skeptics still around, and really people that got butt hurt. I mean, there's a lot of wealthy people the last year that are no longer wealthy because of crypto. So it's a matter of time, I think, for that money to slowly kind of filter back into the market. And maybe now is the time. Sure, I hope it is, because it's obviously everyone's going to go back to making money again, and we can stop uh, criticizing one another on crypto Twitter. But yeah, for me personally, right now, I've been able to get into a couple of longs here and there, and even short that wick last week. But as of right
Nice.
now, yeah, I definitely don't want to be longing Bitcoin up here. I'm pretty skeptical of any kind of bullish move further up, and unless we get some kind of news.
Awesome. And I actually kind of see a few more indicators and lines on your chart, right? Maybe you could go through them. For example, I think there are some MAs, right? So what MAs do you use? Why do you use them? And then, what's that below? Is that RSI? Yep.
Yeah, so I use RSI and actually put the Bollinger Bands over the RSI, so I can use that. So I mainly use the 21 and the 35. So for swing trades, I'm always kind of waiting for for the 21 to kind of cross over the 35 as like a bullish indication. And then obviously right now, on a lot of these alts are actually starting to cross over the 200 MAs. So I mean, Link and Sol, for example, is a great example. Like these things have gone
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, parabolic in the last week or so. I think Sol, well, probably Link. I think Link's probably the most hated rally I think I've seen for a while now,
Look at that,
just
man.
because it's just insane. But I mean, you really need to look at, if we drop out to say a weekly chart, like this thing has just been range bound for so long. Like I feel sorry for these people that have literally sat here and just held this thing for literally a year, if a year and a half, where it's been sideways chopped. They finally get a move out of this range. You really want to see Link push higher here, and I do expect probably a retest. Back down to the range high here at 850, 830. So I do expect some kind of drip back down here if BTC gives us a negative move. But as of right now, like this weekly candle is just absolutely insane. And Sol for me, I'll hit you with my theory, and I think the only reason I have this opinion is because I'm coming into this is my now third cycle, right? Now, from a trading perspective, you always want to try to pick the altcoins. If you're going to play alts, you want to be playing alts that have not really had a previous cycle. Okay. Now, the only real exception to that is it's a ETH. Okay, ETH's obviously already gone through several cycles and it's always broken its all time high. But when you come to like L1s, like near AVAX, FTM, I got really lucky last cycle. Well, I say really lucky. I mean, I was buying Phantom for like 6 months under a cent. So for me, when it goes straight to 80 cents in 2 days, obviously I'm taking profit. So,
Nice.
um, and it ended up going to what, $3.60 or something ridiculous.
Yep.
So my theory on Sol is, first of all, it was a highly manipulated token because of FTX. So it went a lot higher than probably what it was supposed to because of that manipulation. So your next question that you need to really ask yourself is there going to be enough liquidity in the market to push that back up over $200? Now, I mean, we're sitting at $30 now. So, I mean, could I see it going to 100, 150? Yeah, of course. For me to kind of see Sol back at all-time highs, I think the market would have to be very, very frothy for people to be FOMOing back in, willing to pay $200 for Sol. Uh, I say that, and I'm an Arbitrum maxi, I'm an ETH maxi. I actually don't, other than trading Bitcoin, I actually don't buy Bitcoin anymore. I think the more you stay in these cycles, the more you kind of become less of a Bitcoin maxi, just because it's like the boomer coin. In the end, I'm in this market to make money, and I'm not going for a 2x. I want to be able to go in heavy into whether it's on-chain coins, and there's plenty of them right now, where there's enough liquidity we're not going to have an issue getting in and getting out. But I think also it's it's more, I want to be trading things that are going to do 10, 20x, and you're just not going to get that from Bitcoin. Um, I do see, $8,000 to $10,000 Ethereum next cycle, and I'm just not quite sure Solana's going to have enough to break all-time highs. I know I'm going to get a lot of heat from this from Solana maxis. I know you guys love your chain. I apologize, but it's just and it's I guess segue into this would be, it's the reason why I guess I'm so bullish on things like Arbitrum, because they're yet to have a bull cycle. you want to, for me, in my opinion, you want to be starting to invest in things that haven't already moved. And obviously, optimism, arb, things like that haven't really even seen a bull cycle yet. I mean, there's a bunch of these, even gaming metaverse coins, that they literally were the top, and they've been completely mutilated the last 2 years. That to me makes more sense, from an exponential point of view, being able to buy something now on the lows, and if you're not needing the cash straight away, be happy to sit on it for six months to a year, and you're going to get that 5 to 10x or more. If not, I would hope more. That's the reason why we're here. And just Bitcoin to me now is kind of boring. Now I say that, I look at Bitcoin and I chart Bitcoin every single day. Why? Because you need to know what Bitcoin's going to do to give you, a better knowledge on what you should be buying and when you should be exiting positions. So Bitcoin's always going to be the big daddy. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always paying attention to Bitcoin because the market's going to move with Bitcoin. But yeah, am I actually buying and holding Bitcoin? No, not anymore. I did last cycle. I built a house with Bitcoin, so it's like Bitcoin's been good to me. But yeah, for this cycle, a little bit of a change of mentality for me, which is, yeah, okay, I don't want the boomer coin. I'm gonna use the boomer coin to my advantage, and I'm gonna trade everything else that I think is going to outperform it eventually.
Awesome. So you mentioned kind of a few things there. So I think the first one was about trading coins that did not have previous cycle, right? So, for example, use Solana as an example there. Then would you be trading things like upcoming L2s or L1s, such as like a Monet, for example, in the next cycle?
Absolutely.
Right.
100%. 100%. And I mean, that's where you're going to get the most gains from. I mean, that's just fact. And it's okay to be, if you're a Solana maxi, that's fine. I got nothing against the chain. I hold Kempai pandas on Solana. So it's like I'm still gonna use the chain. I've got nothing against the chain, but when it comes to making money from on a long term investment, I would much prefer to be buying these earlier kind of, or I should say later L2s. Like ARB, for example, ARB, Optimism. I know there's a bunch of new ones out there too. And then I guess the best move for me last cycle was the movement of liquidity, and that's, once we get liquidity back in the market, you need to be very, I guess, what's the best word? You need to be very uh, aware of where the liquidity is moving to what chains and why. So last cycle, it actually started with FTM, and then the rest of the market kind of started to push, and then towards the end of the cycle, you had this hot ball of money literally running from chain to chain. And then it was FTM, then it was Sol, and then it was AVAX, then Near, then One. So if you are able to jump on those chains early and then even buy some of these altcoins inside that eco, I know in Phantom there was some things literally doing, 500,000x if you're getting in early enough. Sure, there's plenty of rugs, but once the liquidity starts to move on chain, that's really where you can crush it as a degenerate. When you really start jumping down the rabbit hole, and you start to chase liquidity onto a chain, if you're early enough to the chain, it's really, you're going to make more money on that than trading leverage, and that's, it's unless you're trading leverage with obviously big size. So if you're a very small account size, that's really when you start to have that liquidity move on chain. You can start to chase it and follow it, and if you can get early to some of those early kind of eco plays, that's really where the most gains come from. We're not quite there yet. We saw a little bit of it with Arbitrum actually towards this, at the start of the year before the airdrop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a perfect. It was literally ARB season for 3 to 4 months. That's where the liquidity was. Everyone was happy to play on chain, um, and there was some massive gains to be had. And the thing is, you don't want to get stuck, because if you get stuck on chain and the liquidity disappears, it's painful.
Right. And since you mentioned chasing the ball of money flows, right? What tools do you use then to kind of see where money is flowing into?
June, you can use June Analytics. You'll start if you're in enough. CT will tell you too. That's the thing. If your network is your net worth in crypto. So what do I mean by that? That means if you're new to the space, you need to follow the right people. You need to get in the right Telegram groups. That was the reason why we started Fungi Alpha. I was one of the guys who helped build Fungi Alpha with Lewis, with Mono, with Flips. So we kind of helped build that out for that very reason, because it's something that when you're kind of starting out in this industry, it's very difficult to kind of find your place. And granted, we did get a little bit lucky with the timing. It was very much so kind of Arbitrum based, and Arbitrum just happened to take off, and that just helped really with the brand per se. It helped the brand take off, and it kind of is what it is today. So I think my advice would be make sure you're following the right people. Make sure you're in these. There's plenty of these little alpha groups and things like that to kind of keep you kind of one step ahead of the rest. Um, that's probably my best advice. Learn how to follow, how to read the blockchain. Like get on, whether it's Etherscan, ArbScan, whatever. Learn, follow some of these bigger wallets. See what are they doing with their capital. What are they buying? What chain are they buying at the moment? Honestly, there's not much volume or liquidity on any other chain right now other than ETH. And you can see that. All the big wallets, they're all aping things on ETH. The big movers right now are on ETH. And everything else is kind of pretty flat. So yeah, I'd say study, learn new things, and eventually, if you hang around long enough, you will be rewarded. But I can promise you that crypto, Bitcoin, it will test your morals. Once you've been here long enough, you are rewarded, but you will be tested too. Let me tell you that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, man. And
No probs.
do you want to kind of chart Ethereum a little bit then, since we're talking about Ethereum? We could take a look and hear your thoughts about it.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so Ethereum right now, I'll be honest, compared to the Bitcoin chart, it's just there's not really much strength. Now, what I will do is another indicator I use is the fixed range volume profile. All right, so what essentially that does, again, it's all volume based. All right, so a good thing we have, I was talking with a friend yesterday where we were actually sitting directly under this value area high. So all I've done here is I've taken the volume from this current range, and this is showing you where the most volume has traded in what price. Okay, so I'll even drop this back down to say a 4 hour. That might give you a little better view of what's going on here. There we go. Okay, so what I'm looking for on ETH right now, and it's done it so far. All right, so you can see just before the weekend, we were sitting at this just under the POC of this range, okay, at let's say 1630. So we had 4 or 5 4 hour candles, wick in, wick out, wick in, wick out, where you had buyers and sellers essentially fighting We're going to reject or we're going to push higher. Eventually, the buyers won out. So we've got more buyers than sellers. We move higher. Now, before 4 p.m. yesterday, we were sitting under this value area high. And, I was talking with a friend at the time and I said, look, I think we're going to break out of here just because there was no real confluence for us to stop here. We had the 618 just above us, which I'll drop in now, all right, which in the end, we broke straight through. But what I do like to see here right now is ETH is actually now holding the value area high of this local range. So what's that telling me? Again, there's buyers here willing to trade this up higher. And I do think there's still probably going to be another move higher just because what I said earlier with Bitcoin, there's a level at 31,200 that I really want to see taken out. And depending on that reaction is probably going to determine, well, it will definitely determine what the market's going to do after that, whether we get a flush or not. So I'm still honestly quite bearish on Ethereum. I think at some point, I do think we actually see at least $1,400 Ethereum, $1,200 Ethereum. Now, I know that sounds silly to say that right now because everything's super bullish and the market, I think, is probably going to see an upswing here. But I do think that I'm happily going to keep some cash on the side to kind of accumulate some ETH if we do get a flush. Now, crypto's always had black swans, right? Now, you can't always trade for or expect a black swan, but what I will do is I will drop out of this. And kind of what you can see here is I was waiting for, we had this 1474 level here on ETH that I was looking at. And again, we haven't really swept this capitulation candle. So that's kind of what I was looking for. Just like Bitcoin has actually already done today. We've actually filled that. We had that fake pump to the upside, and now we've just very slowly kind of stair-stepped our way up to closing that candle. We never actually got that on Ethereum to the downside, where that candle was completely closed. Now, the thing with ETH right now is it's underperformed Bitcoin chronically. Okay, and I'll bring up even the ETH BTC chart, and I mean it's pretty obvious right here. The reason why we started to bounce and have some good pops on alts yesterday or through the weekend was because ETH against BTC is coming into this big range of support. So we can zoom in here, and essentially all we've done is we're starting to give it back. So we pushed up through the weekend, and all we've done is we're just giving it back on the Monday. So for me, this level on ETH BTC really needs to hold. Now, I'm not sure if you're a big trader, Moose, but so are you a BTC? I don't like to use the word maxi because I mean everyone has the right to have and hold Bitcoin. I think I know I said I don't hold any, but I hold a bunch of ETH.
Oh, me
That's
too.
just my preference right
Yeah.
now. But I
Yeah.
mean, are you holding Bitcoin? Are you happy to hold Bitcoin
No, in
for the
fact,
next 2 years through
I
the
have
cycle, or
I have never bought a single Bitcoin before.
there you go. I rest my case. So I mean, there's plenty of guys and I'm glad that you're one of them. That as Bitcoin leads the market, and Bitcoin kind of determines what the rest of the market does. But I'm definitely not a believer that you need to be buying and holding Bitcoin because you're a bad person, or if you don't hold Bitcoin, you're a bad person. And I think that's just too maxi mentality for me. I think everyone's in this space to make money, and there's many ways to skin a cat, as they say. And I think actually holding Bitcoin long term now at this time in the cycle doesn't really make that much sense. But using charts like this is essential to kind of knowing when to start DCAing into alts. playing bounces. All right, so I'm still not convinced that this is market bottom on alts. I think we're due for a bounce, which is essentially the way I'm playing it right now. But ETH has performed horrendously against Bitcoin the last couple of months. I mean, that's essentially all this chart is showing you, that ETH has underperformed, and we're coming into a very important range now where it's really make or break. ETH needs to show some strength here, or alts and ETH are probably going to give way, which is not necessarily a good thing. One thing I would like to show you is I have a little bit of a hybrid chart here, which I doubt many people have seen. Okay, so as you can see there on my chart, I have buy as many alts as possible, okay, at this level. Now, what this hybrid chart is, this is a BTC Dominance, USDT, and USDC aggregate. Okay, so what this is essentially showing you is when is money moving in and out of Bitcoin, right? Or moving into the rest of the market. So a lot of people will just show you Bitcoin dominance. Now, as you can see right now, we're starting to get very, very, very close. And this is on a macro time frame, right? This was, to give you a reference, this level here, all right, at the top where I started this fib at 76%. All right, I can tell you what day this was. So if you were back in the market in middle of last cycle, just starting the last bull cycle, that day was when XRP was subpoenaed by the SEC. Now, I still remember that day because that day I was driving. It was just after Christmas, and alts were getting absolutely massacred. We had a day where I think XRP was down like 50 or 60%. Most of the alts were down like 30 or 40% in the day. And this was essentially the bottom of the alt market. Now on this chart, obviously it is the top of the market, right? Because this is USDC running out of the market. They're all buying Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, because we're getting crushed on alts. All right. Now you need to be a contrarian here and you need to say, okay, everyone's exiting. This is my time to get in. And that day was essentially the bottom of the market. Now, all we've done since the top of the Bitcoin bull run, 69K, as you can see, all we've done since then is just step our way up rather, as USDC has left the market. This is people selling, people moving into Bitcoin, this is people leaving the market, and then all of a sudden, we've now hit an important monthly level, which I'll bring that up right now. Okay, so we've hit a really important monthly level here. We're starting to come into a very important 618. This is a golden pocket. I always use 618 and the 0.66. So for me, my trigger to start really unloading on alts is when we start to coming into this level now, which I've already started to dabble a little bit in some alts, starting to buy some alts and start to be happy holding them long term. But really, when we start to push into this golden pocket on the monthly here, around 64 to 65%, that for me is my trigger to say, okay, bottom on the alts is very close, if not in. Now, most people are going to show you this chart here, all right, which is the BTC Dominance chart. And as you can see here, that was the day. I'll bring it to the weekly. All right, so this was essentially the XRP day that I was talking about. Now, this is different here because, as you can see, and this is why these charts I'm showing you right now are so important, because you have two different types of traders in crypto. You have people that are trading for dollars, like myself. I guess you can split it into three baskets. Okay, you have people that are trading for dollars, people that are trading for ETH, and people that are trading for Bitcoin. Now, when I first entered the market, I guess, I was told, or the people that I was following, whether it was YouTubers, even when I first got involved, my go-to guy was like Superman and those type of guys, because you don't know any better. And they're always like, no, you need to make more Bitcoin. You need to trade this to make more Bitcoin, right? And that's when they show you this chart. Now, the reason why this chart is still continuing to go up, right? This is Bitcoin dominance against the rest of the market. Okay, now this is only important for me, in my opinion. This is important for people that want to make more Bitcoin. So if you're trading alts to make more Bitcoin, absolutely this chart is important for you to know. All right, now obviously we still got a ways to go here, really, where I think, and this is really the difference between the two different charts I'm showing you. One is with USDC and where the USD is flowing in and out of what assets, and this is purely the Bitcoin dominance against everything else, and it's just slowly moving up. And I still feel like, and I mean, this is where I think we're going to get a spike here eventually to at least 56%. And I'm not quite sure we're going to get all the way to 60% Bitcoin dominance. If we do get to 60% Bitcoin dominance, I'm sorry to say, your alts are almost at zero. So, especially against Bitcoin. Now, what would get us to this level? So I just give you an example. Two things. Bitcoin goes to 40K in one day. Let's say we get an ETF and Bitcoin goes from 28, 30K to 40K in one day. You're going to see a massive candle like this because everyone's going to jump into Bitcoin. Now, if you're holding an alt, that alt is still going to go up in dollar value. So if you're holding alts and Bitcoin goes from 30K to 40K, all right, you're still going to make money. But it depends. That's the reason why I asked at the start, what type of trader are you? Are you trading to make money or are you trading to make more Bitcoin? Because if you're holding an alt and you're looking for more Bitcoin and Bitcoin goes from 30 to 40K, you've actually lost Bitcoin. Because this chart is going to go 5% to the upside and your alt is going to get crushed against Bitcoin. So that's the reason why, and I think a lot of people enter this market and they don't understand that there's several different markets inside this ecosystem that determines the type of trades that you make and the type of trader that you want to become in this space. So I hope that makes sense.
Right, understood. So in general, Bitcoin dominance goes up or kind of goes down, right? And
Yes, in this chart.
you're kind of
And
looking to buy the so-called bottom of the alts when that Bitcoin hits that percentage level that you mentioned. And
exactly right.
I like there's this quote by Lynn, right, that says, I'm not sure if it was by her or she took it from someone else, right? But basically says if the tokens you're going to buy is not going to outperform ETH, then just buy ETH, right? Which is exactly what you're describing, right? When your
Exactly
odds
right.
go up in percentage level, but the percent of increase is not the same or lesser than the percent increase in Bitcoin in your example, where you're kind of losing Bitcoin, right? I quote. So yeah, totally makes sense, man. I understand what you're trying to say.
Well, it's the reason why I don't necessarily use this chart as well. I know there's a bunch of YouTubers that use this chart to determine on when they're entering alts. But for me, it's kind of voided because in the end, if I'm buying an alt here and Bitcoin goes from 30K to 40K, I can promise you your altcoin is going to go up 30% in dollar value. So to me, that's a win. Whereas I see a lot of YouTubers kind of saying that's a loss. Well, it's not a loss. You've lost Bitcoin, but I don't personally care about Bitcoin. I'm not in this space anymore to make more Bitcoin. I want to make more ETH and I want to make dollars. So it's the reason why I created this kind of hybrid because this is kind of showing me now that we're getting very close. That if you're trading this market using USDC, then we're starting to get very close where you really need to start DCAing into the assets that you want to buy now, really waiting for something like this. We could chop around here before we do this again. And that's kind of what I think is going to happen. It's either going to be we're going to go to 40K and then we're going to have a massive pullback, or we don't actually ever get there and we see 24, 22, 20 because of whatever reason, whatever the negative catalyst is. But I can assure you, both of these charts are going to go up. It's just going to determine on what are you buying those assets with, what are you using to buy those assets with, and what do you want to accumulate more of in the next 4 months before BTC halving.
Awesome, got
So
it.
yeah,
Yep.
I know that's kind of a little bit of maybe a bit technical for some people, but and if it is, guys, hit me up in the DMs. I'm happy to I'm happy to go over it. I'm not I do all this stuff for free. I'm not here to make cash.
Yeah.
If everyone wants to learn anything about exocharts, hit me up in DMs. I do a daily market analysis. So if there's any misunderstanding there, I'm an open book.
Awesome, and thank you so much for sharing, man, Giga. We're
No
closing
problem.
to the 1 hour mark. Maybe you wanna talk a little bit about yourself, get to know about you, shall we? A quick one.
Sure. Sure, no
So,
problem.
yeah, could you run us in a day in the life of Giga, like as a full-time trader? How's your day look like, man?
My day starts at 4 a.m. I'm a big David Goggins fan. For anyone, I don't know if anyone
Oh
knows who
my
that is.
God.
I am a massive David Goggins fan. I'm still an athlete, even though I'm not playing tennis anymore. I run marathons, so I kind of start my morning with a run to the gym. I'm in the gym at 6. Once I'm out of bed at 4, I'm looking at charts, and then it's breakfast, pre-workout, hit the road, run to gym, get the gym session in, run back, and then it's really just on the charts for the day and kind of going about my business, um, both in crypto and outside of crypto. Actually building something right now with Q, or Flips as everyone knows him. We're building an NFT marketplace called Utopia on Arbitrum. So that's really kind of been my main focus now for the last, say, 4 to 5 months. Um, so yeah, if we're essentially trying to bring something different to the NFT marketplace, rewarding people in Arbitrum for trading on our platform, and kind of trying to change the game a little bit with NFTs and how they're traded, and the community. If you're a creator, kind of being rewarded for using the platform. Having NFT stakers, we have an NFT there that's currently being minted, and really kind of trying to bring something different to the market, where kind of OpenSea has, in my opinion, destroyed and the NFT market. They've taken a lot away from the NFT market if you're a creator. If you're your own NFT project, not being able to charge royalties. I know from a buyer's perspective, it's great. Oh yeah, great. Okay, we're not charging royalties. Okay, great. But I mean, if you're an artist that lives off your art, you've just had your legs taken out from under you. So we've definitely, I think, made some improvements on that model, and we're a little bit of OpenSea, a little bit of Blur, and obviously there'll be trading rewards and things like that, but everything's rewarded in Arbitrum. So trying to give some utility back to the Arbitrum token, so it's no longer just a governance token. So yeah, that's really been my main focus with Flips for the last 4 to 5 months. It's a builder's market, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and a lot of people actually also ask, like, why build now? Why build now when the market is so dry? And I always have the same answer, which is, why not build now? You want to be building in the bear when times are tough, so that you can kind of reap the rewards in the bull market. Uh, and I know, and it is, and I'll be honest, it's really hard right now. There's it's difficult to raise capital. Even in the NFT market's been absolutely demolished. Most NFTs are down any 95, 99%. And NFTs are not hot right now, but that's also the reason why we wanted to build it out. I'm always up for a challenge, and yeah, so we're just heads down, bum up, grinding away, and yeah, it's been a really exciting opportunity, and it's been challenging, but the marketplace is it's in live beta, so people are able to list and trade their NFTs, and yeah, it's been fantastic. Been a good experience so far. I've really enjoyed it, and the community's great.
Awesome. And I think it's true that I think the best time to build is during the bear market, right? Where there's no distractions. You don't have to be chasing after every token pump, right? When you can just focus on building what you're doing. And yeah, for those who want to check out what they are building, I'll be linking the links down below so you can definitely check them out. And I think we could close this off pretty soon. I'm gonna end off with the final two questions as I always do. So my first question will be then, what is your greatest takeaway from being in crypto?
Freedom.
Freedom. Nice. Trading to freedom.
Crypto, yeah. I mean, that's honestly it. I mean, it's so cliche, but that's exactly what crypto brings to people is freedom. It's whether that's breaking the 9 to 5 or giving the opportunity to break that 9 to 5. I think Web3 is definitely developing. I mean, now myself, I'm even starting to now kind of focus on building a brand and Web3, just because honestly, Web 2 just burns you out, and I think there's just more to offer in this space, and it's still so new that there's no reason why people can't get involved now and really grind it out the next 2 years for and I mean this when I say it, change your life. I've lived it. I've the second cycle did that exactly for me. So I think stay in the space long enough and evolve, and improve your skill set, and you'll be rewarded. So yeah, I think for me the best answer is literally crypto. For me is freedom.
Awesome. Love the answer, man. And then my final question would then be, could you give me three guest nominations to come on the pod in future?
Yeah, number one, cousin crypto. I don't know if you know who that is. Guy out of South Africa.
Wait, sorry,
Very,
sorry.
I don't want to say similar story. Yeah, yeah, sure. My first choice would be cousin crypto. I don't know if you know who that is. It's a guy out of South Africa who's made a name for himself. He blew up. He was very viral. He went viral towards the end of the last cycle. I think he's a character. I don't actually personally know him, but I'd love to hear him get on here and shoot the shit with you. I think it'd be hilarious. Another
Awesome.
guy would be, I think, probably Lewis. Lewis Cooper, I think, is valuable in the DeFi space, and I think also too what he's kind of built for himself, and kind of his brand the last 6 months. I think it's something very very valuable, and I think he'd be a good example of someone new to the space, trying to make a name for themselves. I think he could probably give listeners some really good value. Third guy, I'm gonna go OG here with Korean Jew crypto. Same thing, OG guy, and he's really kind of helped me in the space, and I think he's undervalued. I think in this space too. He got in just before me. He's definitely done better than me. I can assure you of that. But I think again for listeners, I think just kind of listening to those OGs that have really made a name for themselves, even though he's not doing YouTube anymore. He's got his own Discord service and stuff like that. But I think he really brings some value to the space. I know he's a bit older than me. He's got a family. He's a good guy. He's dad. He's I've also actually kind of watched him grow over the last kind of 7 or 8 years. So for me personally, again, I don't know him personally, so I'd love to hear him kind of again come on here and kind of give him or give you his story because I think it's very intriguing for new listeners. So yeah, they're my three choices.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on, Giga. Maybe before we pop off, is there anything else that you want to cover that we have not touched on yet?
No, I think that's really it. I guess before I go, I think it would be try not to get caught up in in the short term kind of FOMO feeling. This is a long crypto is a long race, and I know I suffer from it too. It's normal that you have days where you've missed a pump or you feel like Bitcoin's going to go to 40K tomorrow and you just want to all in everything. You just can't do that. You can't afford to do that. You have to be uh, just take note of your emotions. And when you feel like that, just step away from the computer, step away from the green button. Price will nearly always come back at some point for some reason. You think it'll never come back there, especially in this part of the market, this part of the cycle. I can promise you, it almost always does. For whatever reason, whatever bearish catalyst we get in the next 2 weeks, or something stupid happens in the market. So yeah, I think that would be I think just one piece of important advice before I go is just don't fall into that FOMO trap as much as everyone tells you that it's easy. Just respect your capital, manage your capital, make sure you survive in the market, and you'll be rewarded.
Awesome, and thank you so much, man. For those who are interested in learning more about TA or want to reach out to Giga, I will link his Twitter down below as well, so feel free to contact him. And thank you for tuning into this episode. We will see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Moose. Thanks for having me. Take care, guys.
That brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Before you go, do remember to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you never miss a thing. Comment down below what you liked about this episode, who you would like me to interview next, or any topics that you want to learn more about. Until next time, this is Moose moving out.